Hey there, trail riders. It's Trevor here. I wanted to give you guys some info on how to make segments and how to navigate Strava a little bit. It's a really cool tool to use for one wheeling and seeing your times and just comparing to other people. So, this is kind of the generic dashboard here, and you see other people's activities and what they're up to, and you can give them kudos and you can comment on what they're doing. It's cool. It's my suggestion that if you're going out, you're doing runs, try to snap some photos. It's a social media platform, but it's also a way to time yourself. It's really both, but start a conversation, continue it. You'll see there's a big ad here because they want me to use the actual, subscription service. It's my opinion, especially for one wheeling, that it's not really necessary. If I was big into cycling or I was really big into running, like that's one thing. But because there's some features missing for PEVs and stuff like that, it's really not worth it. And you can do everything that you would want to do um, basically with the free service. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We'll go to my activities. So I use it pretty extensively for a lot of different things, all the way from just normal bike riding. I put all of my one wheeling under e-bike, which is good and bad, but I don't know. It's just something I've done. I know everyone else is using ice skating. I'm putting some EUC stuff I'm testing out under backcountry ski. So, but I'm going to jump into this run I did yesterday, and you'll see some segments are in here. Some of these segments I made myself. Some of them were already put in by other people, e-bike riders. That's one of the benefits of using bike or e-bike. But really, it's very easy to put in your own segment. This is just one little route that this was my third best time. I went, reasonably fast, but it's part of a longer loop called the warm-up loop. So it's a full circle right here, and you can always switch this to the satellite view. Although, if you're in trails, at least in Florida, all you're going to see is trees. You're really not going to see anything. So I ride a one wheel. All the rest of these are e-bike, except for my dad also rides a one wheel, and he tracks everything under e-bike as well. But if I did this under bike, I would actually have done a lot more additional segments that aren't currently in here. So I'm going to try to show you how I would add a segment of a particular area that I would want to know the times of, and see how I stack up against myself and against other people. So all you got to do is, if you're in a new virgin area, you may not see anything under segments. So, but if there are a few segments, you just go to the bottom, and you have to do this from a desktop. Or I've been able to make it work from Chrome on my iPhone. If you force it to desktop mode, it's not super easy to do. It'll try to kick you to the app and do all sorts of things. But if you force desktop, you'll see this create a new segment. So once you get in here, you set the start points and the end points of your segment. So there's a particular segment that I want to know how I do, and it's just you have to have already done the run. So you have to go out, get the GPS data into Strava, and then you're going to use that GPS data to create where those endpoints are. So you don't want to do the starts too early, because let's say you stopped here and you took a break. Well, now you're starting your time for what you would have done, during this particular run and segment, and it kind of ruins it. So what I suggest is move a little bit forward into the run, so that if you stop for a water break or whatever, you're not starting your time on that little segment or loop. So this is a little U-turn loop that's not really marked, but we do it pretty regularly. And the end is a similar situation. Make it a little bit before the end. Don't go all the way to the end or too far. This one I may actually be able to see some of the satellite here, because this goes to a road. Occasionally we'll take a break in this area. So I don't want to run the endpoint over here, because if I stop to get some water, then my time's going to keep running. So I'm going to cut that a little bit short, and I'm going to start this a little bit into the loop, and I'm going to make this its own name. Now, it's not marked on the trail, but I kind of know this as like the U-turn, speed loop. Most of this is pretty straight. There's some tight stuff in here, but I'm going to come up with a name. Now, if it's public, you know, just be careful. Don't do anything too stupid, but you'll see it's already part of a segment. So it's going to try to talk me out of creating my own segment. So I see that there's a longer segment. Obviously, that's what I did, but I want to create my own segment. I'm going to hit next. Now I need to name it. I want to take it off of being private so other people can get times on it, not just me. And I'm going to just call it, you know, the power U-turn or something. So let's see here. If I can type power U-turn. And it's on the yellow side, so maybe I'll just put yellow in here. It's part of the yellow loop. And so then I'll just create. So I made the segment. I can delete the segment, but it's public, so other people who are e-biking can get times on this segment. And it takes a while to populate. So if at first it's going to be like, oh, you're number one. You're the fast person to ever have GPS data and run this course. But the reality is it could take 6 or 12 hours to really populate other people who've run it of the 12 people who e-bike and use Strava in this area. So it's not showing up in the segments yet, but if I refresh, it will. So we'll go in here. And here we go. So now it's under power, U-turn, yellow. So now I can click on it and I can see how I've done. So right now, only my name is in here and for that one run. If I wait a couple hours and refresh it, I'll start to see those other people have certainly done this area at some point. So that's cool. And then I'll be able to tell when I did it really fast and when it was slow. And it's good, though, even though it's part of a longer loop, to know how I performed on shorter segments of those loops. So that's really cool. The other thing to do is if you're using ice skating or whatever mode to track your times, you really want to use probably the mountain bike riders segments as a baseline and just build off of those. So what I'll do is I'll have the e-bike set up and I'll have done a run or I know the trail because like I said, you have to do the run, you have to save it, and then you have to go into that run to actually create segments from the GPS data that has been saved. So if I go to some of my other activities, I happen to go to that same place today and I did it on my bicycle. So on my mountain bike. So this is my mountain bike times and how I did. And you'll see I did some of the same areas and some additional areas that, you know, are a little more accessible on a bike than they are a one wheel. So you'll see though that there's a lot more segments and there's a lot of other places to kind of use and base segments off of. So you don't necessarily have to have run it on a bicycle to do it side by side, but you can go in and explore areas under different activity settings and you can see what those activities and segments are under usually bike because you know mountain bikers are going to use that, and then you can use that to create your own segments so you don't have to memorize every single area. You know, this is one in particular that doesn't exist, I don't think, under e-bike right now, called the Yellow Loop Sprint, and the TC is Turkey Creek. So that's one, I don't remember if I've made it or not, that I can look and see, you know, have I made this or has it been made yet? And I don't believe that it has. So let's see here. No, it hasn't. So I recognized I want to create a new segment. And I can kind of look at the GPS data. I know it really well, so it's this area with this turn right here. So once again, I'm going to use my endpoints and my start points to lock this in. So I'll move this a little forward. Now there is a minimum distance of what you can use for the start points and end points. So you have to be careful on that. I think it has to be like 0.2 miles. And you really want longer segments and routes and loops because the GPS data is not perfect. And the shorter the distance, the more error there's going to be. So we're going to move forward through here. I think we'll do it to about here. We're going to compare it to this one real quick. Let's see if I can get a zoom in. So it starts here after this hard right turn. And it looks like it goes through this little motion here, and then it ends all the way up here, which there's actually a few technical spots in there, but that's fine. I can match it. Let's see here. So my new segment, I'm going to make it a little bit longer here. And it's going to run right through there. So next, now it's going to find there are some other loops that already include that piece, but I want this to be its own little segment. So I'm going to create my segment. I don't want it to be private. And I'm going to call it, what is this, TC Yellow Loop Sprint. So I'm going to call it TC Yellow Loop Sprint. So create that. And it's done. So now I'm going to start to see my times and how I did on that. So that's a little intro on how to make segments. So check it out. It's super easy. It's fun. And then you have other stuff you can do with other people that run it, and you can compare it to your own time. So get out there, get some PRs, and be king of the mountain.